Good afternoon. As I said, it's Tuesday, 7th of November, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. in the UK where I'm based. I just got to go through a little legal bit first of all, so please just bear with me. This webinar is for information and education only. Nothing said, not said or implied is a solicitation to buy, sell, trade or not trade in any vehicle whatsoever. And also, I am not a registered financial advisor. Right, got that out of the way. Thanks very much for joining me. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so what I'm going to do is just briefly introduce myself, then we'll go and have a look at a few charts, which I guess is why people are here. We'll go and have a look at some Forex. Gold and silver, always popular to look at them. Natural gas, and somebody also said, could we have a quick look at the Nikkei? So happy to do that. And what I'm going to try and do is show how the methodology that I use, hopefully it can make charts readable and accessible to anyone. Just one other thing, questions, I'm going to leave them to the end. I will have time, I will come back to questions, but I'm just not going to answer them as we go forward because it can just get too sidetracked, I'm afraid. Okay, so let's get going. A few words about me to start off with. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ben Drage, and as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm British, I'm based in the UK. A little bit on my background, I read law at Oxford University and I started working in 1982 in the City of London, and I was working in the money markets. I stayed there until 98, working in various boutique firms and specialising in the interest rate swap market, which was just getting started in those days. 98, I left in order to concentrate on my personal trading, and that's basically what I've been doing since then. Right, got those out of the way. Let's go and have a look at some charts, see what I mean when I talk about trying to decode the markets. First of all, I am a very simple person, and the important thing to me is simple and clear charts. My charts are basically like the one that you see in front of me. There are no indicators like RSI, no moving averages, no Bolly bands, no MACD, anything like that, and certainly no Elliott wave. What I look at, what I concentrate on, what I try to focus on very, very hard is price, pure and simple. Anything else effectively is a derivative of the price. Okay, a moving average is a derivative. So if you look at the real thing, to my mind, that makes it just that little bit better. We've got 3 arrows on here, which basically I think sums up my attitude to the charts. You've got this arrow back here. You can see that is providing support. We go along there, it's resistance. Once more, it's support. If you're above a line, you're providing support. If you're beneath the line, that line is providing resistance, and again, if you're above it, once more, that provides support. And that, I think, is the basis of really what I'm looking at. I mean, I guess most people can make sense of this chart, which is 240-minute oil. You know, you can see quite clearly where support is, down here, across the lower parallel, here at the sliding parallel. You can see where resistance is. It's up here at the upper parallel here, down here, sliding parallel again. You know, it's fairly easy to understand what's going on. You know, if you see support along a line, you anticipate that support is going to continue along that line. Likewise, you see resistance along a line, like here we have it up at the top. You expect resistance to continue along that line. And that is the basis of what I do, what I look at. Let me get rid of that. There you go. There's a chart without any lines on it. All it's got is a little circle for me to remind me what's going on, because otherwise I can get a little bit lost. Let me just draw a couple of lines for you. I guess this is how most people would approach this. They'd go across there. They'd say, okay, we've got a line. We've got some lows. We've got a bit of support across there. We'll look at that. Let's clone that. Let's move up. You know, we've got a nice point here, a high point there. Let's run that line off there, you know, and see what we get. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, it works perfectly well. You get a little bit of support here. You get a little bit of support down at this line here. You get a bit of resistance. Whoops, that's run away. Let's move it back. We're running it off that line there. You know, you got a little bit of resistance there. It's running quite nicely. We had a little bit of a pop above resistance there. You know, all very nice. The thing that I do using pitchforks, what we can do is we can get so much more density, so much more nuance into what's going on. For example, by using a pitchfork, you know, I can show you why that point is there. I can show you why that point is there. So I'm going to go and take my pitchfork tool here, go back to this point here, which is there, just to remind me where it is. Just go A, B, C like that. Bang. All of a sudden, I'm putting a frame on it. Okay, I'm surrounding the pitchfork. I'm surrounding price in, I guess it's reason why it is there. Okay, you can see why that dot, why that high is there. You can see why this low is there. Again, just take it away again. It's all a little bit arbitrary. Put it back on, do the undo delete. There we go again. This is the same fork as you were looking at. This is oil on a 240-minute again. Exactly what you were looking at on the other chart. You know, we can build it up. We start looking at these lows across here. I find a line there, draw it through. All of a sudden you start picking up support, support, support all the way there. We step up a little bit. Also can draw it across a little bit higher up as well. If I can get hold of it, if it will help me. Oh, this is the moment I like. Absolutely great. You know, working with children, animals, and charting tools. That's where it all goes wrong for me somewhere, doesn't it? Anyway, I've got a line across there. All I'm going to do, just put that back there, add it in. You've got another line, support, resistance, support, support, support. We move up out of the fork. I don't particularly mind that. What is important to me is finding the path of price, you know, the way that price is vibrating in the fork. Okay, we found the angle. We found it very, very early on, just from these three lines. We predicted where that high was going to be. We predicted where that low was going to be. And moving on from that, we are continuing to predict lows and highs. We picked up a little bit in support. You hear me talking a lot about stepping up in support. What I mean by that is that support is down here at the lower parallel. We then move up, it comes up to here, support steps up. It's higher in terms of the fork. It's further up towards the median line, further away from the lower parallel. It steps up to here and to here. Once more, it steps up to here, to the quartile. Can you see that? Up we go again. And price, like everything else, if you pressure price from underneath, if you push it to the upside, it puts your resistance under a little bit of pressure. So the resistance that we had here at the sliding parallel, here at the median line, we move above it. What happens? Resistance turns to support. I can put that in with a little arrow. Resistance turns to support. That means that you are increasing the pressure. You're beginning to move to the upside, and that really is what the fork tells us. You can see what happened here. We were anticipating resistance at the upper parallel. That's where it happened before. Yeah, up we went to that. You can even actually just draw in a little line across from that high. Resistance turns to support. Again, just borrow that. Take that little fork there. Resistance turns to support up there. When we move out of the fork, do I mind? Not really, no, because we are still running in the angle of the fork. Let me just put on an outer quartile for you. This is just, again, this outer quartile here. It's the same distance from the upper parallel as that quartile is. We're just, you know, moving out. We're just stepping out by the same amount. So there we go. Price has moved up from the upper parallel, now running into a bit of resistance up here at the median, up here at the outer quartile. Okay, that just gives you a very, very quick idea of how I build up a chart. What I also try and do is look across charts, different charts of the same of the same vehicle, also different charts across different time frames of the same vehicle. For example, this oil chart here, we've been tracking a number of different ways. This is on the 240-minute, a 4-hour chart. Let me just show you another 4-hour chart that I've got. This is exactly the same pattern here. Again, look once more, you can see the idea of the pattern that we've got. We've got the ABC coming from the low. We move up to the median line. We fall away. Okay, we get a bit of support. We fall underneath the line of the fork. Do you see that? Underneath there. But lo and behold, this little move down underneath the lower parallel. Again, it gets picked up again in the line of the fork. It's parallel. Everything's happening parallel. We start moving up. Again, I won't go through absolutely everything, but look, that's where we're topping out at the moment, the median line. Where did we top out previously? The median line. So not unexpected. Just trying to put the two together across time frames, and you know, that's what I do. That is what I try and show my members. Right, that's oil. You're probably sick and tired of that now. Let's go and have a look at something else. Just show you how it works across different time frames. We were looking at a 240-minute chart. This is a weekly chart. This is Japanese yen. And let's just, again, nothing on here to tell you what's going to happen. Again, let's just work at it how it usually would get marked up. People go from a low across there to the next low, draw a line. You've got a really nice little line across there. That works quite nicely. Again, you want to try and clone it, maybe move it up there. No, not working so well. Like that, not too bad. Move it down a little bit. Do we get another one across there somewhere? You know, it's okay. That's the way you could work it. What interests me is why we've got this point here. Why do we run into quite a bit of resistance there at the early part of 2017 and we dip away? Again, just putting a pitchfork over it tells you exactly what is going on. And I'm going to go back here, going to take an A, B up there, come all the way down to a C. Lo and behold, the reason we've got these highs up there is because that's where the median line is. You've had moves up from these lows, the support here at the lower parallel. Where's it gone to? Up to the median line. We've fallen back and away from that. And this on a weekly chart, I'm actually using it as my daily. I've taken it down, just looking at the detail on it in terms of a daily. For example, we've got a little bit of resistance running across those highs. If you just notice when I put the line in, resistance, resistance, support, support. We went underneath it, found a bit of support, and started moving up. In terms of the weekly chart, people say, well, are you bullish or bearish? Well, at the moment, up at that point, I'd be bearish because that is where I would anticipate resistance. Down to the green sliding parallel here, I'd be bullish because that's where I'd anticipate support. Another thing to note is that these lines are not absolutely sacrosanct. They are not thereby holy writ. If Japanese yen moves down underneath this price, immediately what I'll start doing is I will then start to look to the next low. I'll start to say, okay, we've got support, we've moved through it. Will it become resistance? In the same way that we did with that 240-minute oil, if that is now resistance, are we going to be moving to the downside? If so, where is the next support going to be? And again, I'm just going to draw a line across there from this low here. There you can see that's where we picked up support just above the lower parallel. Again, any move through this green sliding parallel here, the next place I'm going to be looking for is going to be down here on the weekly chart, around about 108.5 or so. Okay, apologies. As some of you know, who know me well know, I've had a bit of a throat the last few weeks, so please just bear with me. Apologies about that. Okay, look, we just looked at weekly Forex. This is 60 minutes. This is going to be Aussie when I get there in just one sec. Here we go. Okay, Aussie 60 minutes. Again, looking at what's been going on. The Aussie has been quite weak. We've been moving to the downside. Usual way that people would start looking at what's going on here is trying to find horizontals, what's going on there, what's going on there. It's quite nice. It doesn't work too badly. Can live with that. My inclination is that we can do an awful lot better than that, particularly with relation to what's going on up there, that high and that high. Why are they where they are and what's going on? Again, using my trusty fork, I go to my little circle up there, which is there to remind me exactly what's going on. We go A, B, we go C, up to that point there. What I tend to do is I put my down forks, I always like them coloured red. So that's what I've done there. Again, you can see why we've got resistance, those 2 points. That resistance up there, this resistance here, both at the upper parallel of the fork, as you can see. Price has moved down, and it's moved down not in a chaotic fashion, but in a fashion that we can understand. We know the reasons for it. We can see that there's upper parallel resistance, pushed above it a little bit. Again, I don't really mind that. We came back down underneath it, found resistance again, fell away strongly. And if you look here, we fell all the way to the median line, dipped underneath very slightly, back up again, support there. Where do we move up higher? We're obviously stepping up in the fork. Remember I was talking about that, stepping up, getting higher support. There you go, to the median line, fall away a little bit, the median line once more. Can add a little bit more distance, a little bit more detail if you want to it. You can put a line coming down from that low there. You can see why we picked up support across there. There's also another one just from that spike low there. You can see a bit of resistance coming through there, bit of resistance, and then it starts to become support. In a funny way, again, this might sound a little bit strange, I'm relatively bullish in terms of the Australian dollar in terms of this fork. The reason being is that our support is stepping up a little bit. We're beginning to try and push our way out of the fork. Instead of our support being down there at that level or there at the median line, it's stepped up a little bit. You see it's higher in the fork. What it's doing is it's pushing pressure on resistance. The resistance was at this green sliding parallel. It's been pushed up to the red there. When we come back down, this sliding parallel that was resistance now becomes support. Up we go again. Price again coming back down. I would be looking for resistance down here at about 76.10. I would be looking for support down here at about 76.10. I'm also going to be interested to see if we do pick up support any higher, maybe along the quartile where we are there. If we start finding support there, 76.30, what you will have is support stepping up from the sliding parallel even higher to the quartile, and if we push up to the upper parallel there, my expectation will be that we start to push through it. Okay, right, that's Aussie. I'm going to do this once more, just so you can see exactly what I'm, the kind of thing that I'm doing. I'm going to go over and have a look at Canadian dollar 240 again here. Once more, we've got a chart without anything on it. Very nice, nice and steep. Let's just go straight down there. A, B, C across there. Okay, that is the chart that we're currently looking at on 240 minutes. Canadian dollar. Canadian dollar has been running very, very nicely recently. Let me just try and give you a little bit more of what we're going. The first thing to notice on this chart, and I guess we started thinking about it somewhere around here. We were looking at the median line resistance. Just drew this median line resistance. We hit that, fell away. We came back up. We got a whole load of resistance up there underneath the median line. Price pushed from there. We came down, pushed up to the upper parallel. That's where we hit our resistance up there. Slid away, came down, started looking at the median line. Median line was a bit of support there for a couple of bars. Then we fell underneath it, and if you have a look at this bar here, big strong bar, that is resistance at the median line. Fell away from that. What's happened now? We have come up. We haven't moved up very, very far. It's got to be said. You could actually make a case for running a sliding parallel off that big bar there. When you see a really big tall bar, that means something is going on. Okay, something's going on at the bottom, something's going on at the top of it. That's why it is that strong. So we look along this line, see what we find. Just above the quartile, bit of resistance across there. What happened? Price fell away. Where do we fall to? Precisely the lower parallel, and we started to move to the upside. At the moment, we're still holding underneath this green sliding parallel. Okay, I'm bearish on the Canadian dollar. I'm bearish on this chart. I expect the Canadian dollar to move to the downside, to strengthen, so long as we're underneath this line. Okay. If, on the other hand, we start moving up above it, we start turning resistance into support. Let me just move that across there. If the resistance there starts turning into support, then I change my mind. Then I start thinking, okay, maybe we are going to start pushing to the upside from there. Maybe I'm not quite so bearish on Canadian dollar at the moment. Again, this is just one chart being taken out of context. I look at this across the range, weekly, daily, 240 minute like this, 60 minute, 20 minute, and just try and put a picture together of what it precisely is happening. But I hope what I'm just showing this very brief webinar. What I'm showing is that pitchforks aren't just the lower parallel and the upper parallel. There's a lot more subtlety inside it that with a little bit of care, a little bit of attention, a little bit of diligence, you can actually start to find. The holy grail of trading or investing is finding likely areas of support and resistance. And when you've done that, you can start trading with confidence. Once you see a pattern, once the pattern is obvious, once we've take away the fork, we sort of say, well, why did we top out there? Why did we bottom there? Put the fork back in. Once you can actually see the reasons for it, you can start trading with a lot more confidence. Okay, and really that is what it's about. Our brains are wired to respond to patterns. So when you see the pattern in a chart, such as the ones that I've been showing you here, you feel comfortable again with it. Okay, hopefully what I'm showing here is that whether you're seasoned professional, whether you're a newbie, this is a very, very simple system. Supports, resistances, that's all there is. It's not like Elliott wave where you get thirds of fourths and fourths of thirds or anything like that. And the other thing to bear in mind is that we are looking at supports and resistances that a lot of people are not likely to look at unless you're particularly looking at pitchforks, which not that many people do. I think it's their fault, but not that many people do. 95% of traders aren't going to be seeing the lines of support and resistance that we're coming up with. They would not have known that we were going to likely to get. We had a high probability of finding a low at this level. Okay, they just wouldn't have known that. To my mind, everything you can get on your side as a trader, as an investor, is of benefit. Right, let me go and have a look at a couple of others. I had a couple of people said to me, can we go and have a look at gold? I do run a specific gold and silver trading service. Sorry, not trading service, analysis service. So I do keep a very, very close eye on gold and silver. Again, just bear with me one tick. Let me just change that. There we go. Okay, here we go. Daily gold. I'm keeping a little bit under my chest at the moment. or keeping my cards a little bit close to my chest, because this is a public webinar. My members have to derive some benefit from their membership subs. So I don't want to give too much away. But look, this is gold on a daily chart. This is what we've been looking at. We've been looking at this pitchfork here. You can see the sliding parallel resistance, 1, 2, 3, absolutely perfect touches on those. Okay, we've been also looking at support across this line. When we dipped a little bit underneath it early July, where did we find support? Down here at the lower parallel. Since then, we've pushed to the upside very, very nicely. We've moved all the way from this low down at about 12, what's the low there? 12.05. We've moved all the way up to 13.60. Okay, a measured move to the upside. Didn't come as a great surprise, I've got to say. Since then, price has fallen to the downside, as I'm sure everyone is aware. Where are we currently? Well, we're down near this lower parallel once more. It is an area that we're going to look at to see if we do find support along it. I think we're going to look at to see if we do. I'm not going to say we're definitely going to find support there, because what we have potentially got here is some slightly lower highs in terms of the fork. You can see instead of resistance being up here, okay, we're just beginning to find a bit of resistance at this level. So potentially we could start looking at putting a bit more pressure on support. When you find pressure on support, you tend to move a little bit to the downside, or it is possible that you'll move a little bit to the downside. So, what I tend to say to members is don't just jump into a trade because a line gets hit. See what happens. If price does come back down to 12.65 or so, we start to move to the upside, fine. It looks as though it's beginning to work. But this is a daily chart. We're going to look for changes of trend on shorter time frames before longer. I mean, we'll go and have a look at a 20-minute chart in a minute. But just remember that if you see a trend continues until it changes, and you'll tend to see the change of trend on a 20-minute before a 60-minute, on a 60-minute before a 240, etc., etc. So that is what we're currently looking at, anticipating some kind of support around about 12.65 or so. Let me go on from there. Let's just look at something else. This is gold on a 240-minute chart. Very, very simple. A, B, C. That's the kind of thing that we're drawing all the time. We're just looking and seeing what goes on. For a while, as you can see, it looked as though it was working quite nicely. Moved up to the quartile. Price came down here, got a bit of support at the lower parallel, bounced up and away, and then fell underneath it. Well, no great surprise on that really. Given what we just seen on the daily chart, we were anticipating a move a little bit lower down towards the lower parallel of the fork. So what we did is we made use of a different type of fork. I won't go into too much detail at the moment because that's not really what this webinar is about, but there are effectively 3 types of fork that we use. One like that, a second one like that, and again you can just see that again worked quite nicely along that lower parallel there as support, and then a bit of resistance, the same line becoming resistance. The third type of fork we use is an unmodified shift, which this is, and what I'm picking up from this is the fact that we are finding support in the line of the fork across there. Those two completely disparate bounces, we have a reason for them. We have potentially a slightly higher level of support there at the lower parallel. I'm watching that quite intently at the moment to see if we do in fact find support along this line. Instead of being down here, you can see how close that is to actually picking up, to see if we're actually picking up our support at the lower parallel, stepping up of support from down here up to there. Let me go over and have a look at 20-minute. Again, this is one of my naked charts, 20 minutes. Again, this is what we've been looking at the last few days, looking to see if we find a change of trend. We've been looking at price moving to the downside quite consistently. Now we're starting to look and see if there's anything to the upside. Again, just what we do is we pull out the trusty fork tool. We go A, B, C like that, put that around it. All of a sudden, do we start to find things happening in the line of the fork? Well, let's have a look along here. That high there, that high also very much in the line of the fork. You could run something else. Let me just take a little copy of that across there like that. Support there. Also have a quick look at where we are in terms of the quartile. Quartile is a bit of resistance there. Move up above it. We come back down. It's a bit of support. Currently we've fallen underneath it, and I'm now looking to see if that line becomes resistance. Whoops, let's move that into place. Support there becomes resistance there. That tells us that price is going to continue to move to the downside, and if that is the case, I'm going to be looking down pretty close to the lower parallel. I might actually just run a line across there from that low through that low not too far away from that one. I mean, that's 1272.4. That is at 1271. So you're 50 cents away there. Not very far. I would continue to watch that. Again, if we move to the upside, if we move up through this line, if that line turns to support once more, then that is effectively quite bullish, because what you've got there is you've got support. We fill through it, then we regain support again. Effectively, that would also be, and I hate to point it out because I absolutely loathe these things, that is a head and shoulders formation, inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, and if we move to support back up here, that would be a second shoulder, and that would tell us that we're going to move to the upside. Okay, very, very small differences. You know, this line, support across there, resistance currently, we look and see how it reacts to that. Okay, and that as a 20-minute chart is going to tell us how and where we're going to be going with gold and silver. Or gold rather. Let me move over to silver. I've done a similar thing here. Again, I've just got rid of all the annotations and everything. Just draw it in again. You can see what's happening. We are moving to the upside, as you can see. A, B, C. Just going to draw that in again. And this is actually quite fortuitous as what I've been saying. You know, we have just now dipped underneath on the last few bars on a 20-minute chart. We've just dipped underneath the lower parallel. If you're bullish on silver, and actually let me just add a couple of little bits and pieces to it so you know this isn't just a chart that we're just thrown out for their sake of it. You can see support there, support there. We fall through that, down we go again. All of a sudden, little line across there, resistance in the line of the fork, down we go once more, and again we've had resistance across here. Let me just put that into, there we go, across there, all that resistance was support for a little bit. We move up, hit resistance, down we go again. Currently we're underneath the lower parallel. Underneath the lower parallel, I'm bearish. I think price, until something changes, price is going to continue to move to the downside. To convince me that price is not going to continue to the downside, you need to regain that line. Okay? If price now moves up, starts finding support around about 1696 or so, only about a cent or so above where we are, but as long as it starts finding support along this line, then potentially we're going to start moving to the upside. Then my attention turns to this line here as being the first likely place of resistance. Resistance there, support there, that would be the first resistance again. So if we move back into the channel, we'll come back and have a look maybe at the end of the webinar, see what's changed. If we start finding support at 1696, I'm going to be looking for resistance at 1703, and we'll play things on from there. Let me just look at a couple of longer dated. Again, do what we did earlier. Hang on, where are we? That's the one I wanted to look at. There you go. Remembering what we saw going on in gold. This is silver on a daily basis. Again, very simple ABC here. Running the lines of the fork. What we found so far, if I go in a little bit tighter, is that we've been getting a little bit of support in the line of the fork. You can see this parallel line across here, just above the lower parallel. So from this big spike, and remember I said when you get big, strong bars, that means there's something going on that line. Found a bit of support, worked quite nicely there. Again, we got a big spike up and away from that. Since then, we just started to come down a little bit. I'd be looking for continued support around about 1675 or so. Look to see if that happens. Again, it's not an inviolate line. You know, if we hit that, I do not want somebody to have a buy the moment 1675 is hit. You've got to look and see what is going on. You've got to look to the shorter time frames, like I showed you on the 60-minute, just to see what is going on. Okay, and just also to show you, we've also been running 240-minute, again in a similar fashion to what we had with gold. This is 240-minute. Again, this is the idea of meshing the various time frames together. And the reason I pointed this out was just to show you, you know, how do we know, what about that high? Why was that a high? Well, again, let me just tilt the fork using exactly the same points, the A, the B, the C. Look at that. You can see price moved up. Where did it hit? Bang on the upper parallel. Well, you know, that's all very well, but what about these lows down here? What's going on with that? Well, let me just change this one more time. There you go. Still using the same A, B, C, still using the same pivots, but now we're beginning to find a reason to find a bit of support across here. So I guess what you could say is I'm currently looking at two particular levels on the 240-minute. I'm looking at this as an Andrews fork, and you can see here that we've got support in the line of the fork, albeit underneath the lower parallel. Okay, and what we've been watching the last few days, what I've been saying is that 240-minute, yeah, we're getting support here, but what's happening is we're not establishing ourselves once more above the lower parallel. You know, our support is down at this level, It's not at this level, which is what it should be if we are bottoming, if we're beginning to turn. That doesn't mean that it can't do that, but it does mean that until we get a move higher, until we turn resistance into support, then we're not really bottoming properly yet. Okay, I've got two options I can use. I can use this sliding parallel across here in terms of support. I could also use this line across here down to the lower parallel there. If we break that line, 1679, again, as I say, you know, I'm not absolutely wedded to this. Sorry, 1689 is the line there. If we move through that, I'd start looking down to about 1677 to see the next potential area of support. Important, as I say, to try and look across time frames, to try and look across various ways that we look at price, various time frames, different ways with different forks. Let me go on from there. Natural gas. There's been an awful lot of hot air about natural gas. Dare I say that without getting booed? I don't know. There's been a lot of talk about natural gas recently. Okay, this is a daily chart. I haven't got all of it here. There's a little bit that goes on to the right, but that is kind of my reveal a little bit later. Let me just show you what we've been looking at on this. You can see that we're sideways, that basically having hit this high up here, we're less high. We're kind of in a downtrend. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, just take the forking tool, go from the A down to a low there, up to the high there. Again, because I like my down forks to be red, I'm going to do that. That's not really doing much. Again, we just use one of our variations. We see what's happening there. Not bad, but that, an unmodified shift like that, is a little bit better. Okay, back with you. Apologies again about that. This works better, reason being because if I take a line and just run it across this low there, okay, just highlight that in green, you can see we're picking up support, This is a line which is working. There's something happening in the angle of the fork, the way that we're moving, but along that line. You can see that. Let me just move it on a little bit, show you what we've got here. We've got price beginning to move up above the upper parallel. Okay, hasn't really gone very far. We just pushed that a little bit above. All I'm going to do there, so I'm just going to add a little line to the top side and just see how we go there. Again, I'm going to continue to move this. What I'm beginning to see here is that price is not coming down as far as it previously did. It's not getting down to this green sliding parallel at all. If anything, maybe the quartile across here is kind of the level that we're going to, maybe even a little bit higher than that. Again, let me just move it on. You know, what we've done here, we've moved down, we've moved up once more, we've hit the upper parallel, we've still done that. As we go on, we hit it again and again and again. You can see what we're doing here, and gradually, finally, price moves to the upside. What you've got is you've got some stepping up in price. Instead of being down here at the sliding parallel, you're moving up a little bit to the quartile, maybe even a little bit above it. In fact, if I can just clone this line there, run it across there like that, you can see support, support. We're pushing up, and instead of finding our resistance at this kind of level as we moved up from here, okay, you push the support up a little bit, the resistance is going to give way as well. That's what we've been looking at the last few days. I've been talking to people about saying that, look, we're stepping up into our support, we're putting the upper parallel under pressure, looks like we're going to be moving to the upside, and that in fact is what has happened. I'm just going to now move out a little bit. I'm going to get rid of all those and just show you how we're actually moving, or what we're looking at in terms of moving to the upside. This is another fork that we've been running, again just keeping a watch on it. It's been in the background while we've been moving to the downside, but again we just go A, B, C like that, not working like that, not working so well like that. We change it to an unmodified shift like that. All of a sudden you start to see what's been going on. We move up, we hit upper parallel, we hit median line resistance across there, fall away again hit that, again we fall away. Quartile starts to become resistance across here. The price moves to the lower parallel. You know, you don't need me to really spell out all the moves here, but can you see that they are they're put within a framework? Once you put the framework on, once you start understanding what is happening with price, it all starts to look a little bit easier. It all starts to work just that bit better. Just going to add a little bit to the here, across there, put a bit of resistance. So hang on, let's move that back a little bit. Okay, you can see the support there, turn to resistance, then to the quartile across there. What I'm looking at, natural gas, if you want some levels on it, I'm looking to see how we go in relation to 325 up there. If we move above that, I'm looking at 331 or so. Any move above 331, price, if it then starts to come back, I start to look if the green sliding parallel or the quartile start to provide us with a bit of support. If we start dipping, first place I'm going to be looking for support is down here at 288 or so, which is the lower parallel of the fork. Right, there was one more. Torben wanted me to go and have a quick look at Nikkei. I posted it the other day, so let me just go over and have a quick look on that. Here we go. Oh, sorry, just as we're going past, this is YM, the Dow on a 60. Just been noticing, the way we've been running quite nicely in this little trend line here. Just noticing that we've come down. Looks like we might be finding a little bit of support along the line, about 23,430 or so. Quite nice. Okay, let me go and have a look at, there you go, the Nikkei. Nikkei has got to, I think, what people would say in inverted commas is a very interesting place. Very simple ABC like that. It's worked really nicely. You can see in the line of the fork we've been running well. Support there, big spike bar there. You can see that we've got support there as well, quite nicely. You can see a bit of action coming along the quartile. Yeah, that's a line in the fork that's always worth watching. Here we got a bit of resistance and then moved up above it, and also off there, sliding parallel. Hit that high perfectly, price fallen away from it. Now we've pushed really, really strongly. I mean, since September, it's just been one way, absolutely one way. And we've hit the median line of the fork. Where do we go from there? Well, let's look what happens. The median line is an obvious place to run into a bit of resistance. In fact, today we hit it. 22,958, fell away a little bit from that. Going to continue to watch it. Do we continue to find resistance here? Do we start peeling to the downside as a result of it, or if we move through it, does that start to become support? What I'm not doing, or what I don't do, is I don't say that's my target. From there we're going to fall. It's not as easy as that. This is a daily chart. If you want to see price beginning to fall, you need to look at it on a 20-minute, on a 240, on a 60. Just find out what's happening. Look at it in a little bit more detail. I don't sort of say, we're going to there, or a lot of people who look at median lines say if you hit the median line you've got an 80% chance of hitting the upper parallel, or whatever they say. I don't do that. What I do is I say, look, this is a likely area of resistance. That's where we hit. That's the resistance that we hit. We've fallen away from it a bit. Let's look and see what happens. If that continues as resistance, likelihood is we're going to start moving to the downside. And what I'd be doing is I'd be looking at it as a 20-minute, as a 60-minute, as a 240 minutes to try and sort of lead me into to what is actually happening. Right, guys, that is a quick spin through some what I hope are some fairly interesting charts. I haven't got all day to really just keep going through all these things, but I hope that for some of you who are more used to what you might call lagging indicators, by which I mean moving averages, RSI, things like that, might have been maybe a little bit of an eye-opener, how we can actually project forward to find likely areas of support and resistance. The last webinar I did, I mean, there was a guy came along and he was just sort of saying to me, yeah, well, but what use is that? You told us what's happened, not what's going to happen. Well, hopefully what I've shown you with, if we go back and look at this oil chart that where we started, hopefully what I'm saying to you is that, we find these highs, we find these lows. I'm telling you what has happened, and you need to look at what is happening in price to find out what's going to happen. The stepping up of support that we saw from this lower parallel to the green sliding parallel, then the push through resistance told you that there was a very, very good chance of this line of resistance that had been support back there, then resistance, we moved above it, that was likely to be support once more. So, you can anticipate, particularly when you see these bars moving here, we move up, we come back down, you could anticipate that we're going to find continued support. And it may sound trite to say it, but remember what I said about above the bar is support, beneath the bar is resistance. If you find support along this line here, it continues as support until you fall through it. So, with very, very small stops, you could get long with this bar, put your stop beneath the previous low, and ride it to the upside. I hope that is clear anyway. Look, I mean, that really is what I try to be all about, what Forex Analytics is all about. I try to produce clear and uncluttered charts. I also try and show high probability, low risk entries and exits. hopefully what I've been able to show you in this brief webinar is once you put a pattern on a chart, you can understand it, and in turn, once you understand it, you can then successfully trade the chart. And as I said earlier, because most people aren't looking at these lines that we're actually looking at, that gives you a huge advantage, and everyone needs that kind of edge, I think. So great. Look, if you've liked what you've seen today, you want to find out a bit more, please go and check out the website. There are more videos, there's more information there. If you think the methodology can help with your trading or investing, please think about giving the analysis, the membership, a try. I've got a special offer on at the moment. The first month is at $50. And if you're not happy within the first fortnight, if you just think, no, it's not really for me, just let me know, as I say, in the first fortnight, and I'm very happy to repay you the full $50. Okay, and that is true of both the metals service and the market service. I should just explain that a little bit. Metals basically just looks at gold and silver, also looks at metals in other currencies, which I don't think very many people do. But if you're living in Europe, you probably want to know what gold is doing in euros. Ditto if you're in Canada, Australia, whatever. So we do try and look at those as well. The market service includes metals, but also looks at Forex, commodities, indices, and just about anything else that people throw at me. I'm happy to look at whatever you do want. I put out video analysis every morning in UK time, London time, usually by around about 8 o'clock or so before the London markets get going. We've also got chat rooms where you can post your analysis if you want to, or I can update things during the trading day. And we also have 2 webinars like this every week, which is probably why my voice is suffering like it is. But in those webinars, we just try and look at where we are in certain key charts and try and focus what's happening on a more precise basis. So there you go. I hope I've given you a little bit of an idea of what it is that I look to do in trying to really simplify the charts and to try and put the moves that we see into an understandable context. And when it's understandable, it's tradable. Okay, that is the nub of everything. If you've got a chart which is just covered with annotations, just forget it. If you don't understand what's going on, you don't want to trade it. Okay. I think the methodology has got great benefits for both traders and investors, and I do appreciate that for many people it's a little bit out of step with the mainstream. But there's a quote that I really like which goes, if you want to have a better performance than the crowd, then you have to do things differently from the crowd. Hopefully that's what I do. Hopefully you can see that it might be a benefit to you and you'd like to try and find out a little bit more. There are some questions coming up. I'm going to mute myself once more, have another slurp of water, and I'm going to come back and have a quick look at those questions for you. Hang on a second, guys. Okay, this came up. I noticed it before I even started. Manny said, can we have a look at sterling on what time frame, Manny? Daily. Yeah. Okay, daily. Yeah. That's been running quite well. There we go. Right, sterling on a daily. Again, yeah, it's been. Wow, it's been fairly volatile, I've got to say. But having said that, I think we've got it fairly much coordinated by the fork we've been watching. This on the daily chart. These are quite big moves here. You're down at 121, down at this corner here back in March. We moved up to 137, so you've got 1600 pips on that. It's quite a big move. Again, just been running pretty nicely. What are we seeing at the moment? Well, we saw a move up above the up above the upper parallel of the fork. There you go, up to that outer quartile that we looked at on one of the other charts. Came back down from there. Where did we come back down to? Well, sliding parallel. Remember what I was saying about big bars being important? Well, you got a big bar off that line. Therefore, we drew a line across there, bit of support, fell underneath it, came back to it. We kind of got above it, but didn't really do so. Back down once more, and now we found resistance at that line again. Meantime, in terms of support, we're looking across this line here, and we hit that a couple of days back. What am I looking at? I'm looking at price finding support around 130.55 or so. I'm looking at my resistance. The first place I would look is 32.65, the median line, 33.50, the sliding parallel up there. And depending on how price acts within this on the daily basis, that is going to give you the likely next move on sterling. If sterling moves underneath this sliding parallel, which I've got to say looks more likely at the moment, if it goes underneath 30.55, probably the next place I'm going to look for, and I just check back in the fork, we've got nothing happening underneath the green sliding parallel. probably the next place I'd be looking for support is down here at 129.15 or so. That is on the daily chart. On a 40-minute chart, on a 60-minute chart, we could find something in between that. But just looking purely and simply in daily terms, you're looking at support at 30.50. You're looking at resistance up here at 133.50. Is that okay, Manny? Yep. Good. CAC 40. Frank. Sorry, somebody put some of the names that come up. I don't know if what nationality they are. If Frank is French, his name is Frank. If he's English or American, Australian, Kiwi, Canadian, he's Frank. No, I won't be rude. Whoops, hang on. Let me get my charts back. Okay, let's go and have a look at the CAC 40. That's the French Stock Exchange. I've got that on here somewhere. There we go. Yeah, again, it's been running to resistance. You remember we looked at Kiwi running to resistance? Sorry, not Kiwi. The Nikkei running to resistance. Looks as though it might also be the case with the CAC 40. Massive, great fall from 2007. This is a weekly chart down here, but nice bit of move up there. Started running in the line of the fork. You can see this median line, bit of support. Down underneath it, we get a few lines, sliding parallel support. Up we go again. Not going through absolutely everything. This is a line of resistance that we were looking at. We found that early 2015. Didn't get anywhere near it through 2016. Earlier this year, I think we came up and found that. Wasn't that? Yeah, it was about April, May time. Yep, there we go. Back down to the upper parallel. Again, that was a line resistance turn support along there. So it's a line you'd expect to find support at. 4995. Yeah, they were gunning for 5,000, weren't they? And up we move from there, just running into a bit of resistance up at that upper parallel. I would look to see how we go around about 55.60 to the upside. It's about 80 pips or so, 75, 80 pips above where we are now. Just look and see how things go in relation to that. No problem. Yeah. Oh, you're French. Franck. Je m'excuse. Right. Let's go on from there. Oh gosh. Edward has said, why do I share this? Can I say because I'm a nice guy? No. On a serious note, I've been in the markets a very, very long time, as I told you at the beginning. I actually really enjoy teaching things. I get a great pleasure from actually whether it's one-on-one, sitting down with somebody and just sort of saying, let's look at the market, let's see how we can develop this. I really do enjoy that. I also enjoy the webinars. I enjoy a certain amount of banter with some of the members that I get on with, and even some of the ones that I get on with everyone. I just really like it. I like teaching, and I also find that having to put my thoughts down in video analysis every morning, and I guess the metals ones are probably about 10 minutes to 15 minutes every morning. The markets ones are about probably 20 minutes, 25 minutes maybe. Having to get my thoughts straight, having to actually say out loud to people, this is what I think is going to happen. This is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm concentrating on. It actually helps me. It really helps get my thinking straight. It's not a question of, yeah, I'm right 6 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10 or whatever. It's just a fact. It's the fact of getting my thinking straight and not getting married to any of the lines, which I think is also pretty important. Is that okay? Robin says Aussie, New Zealand. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to preempt you on that because I know that this has been running around. I want to have a look at that on a Kiwi. That's the Japanese yen. Aussie, Kiwi. There you go. This has just been running really nicely. Just looking in terms of the blue fork. Again, we just started seeing price move, or actually put it in terms of the red to begin with. We started moving across the red. We started moving horizontally across. That, when you're moving horizontally, you're stepping up in terms of support in the red fork. Let me just get rid of the blue for a sec. Instead of the support being down here, near the lower parallel, it moves up here. It moves a little bit higher to the median line. Can you see this? We're moving up the whole time, and we move up and out of the fork. You start seeing that. You start thinking about putting in a fork to the upside there. And again, this has just worked absolutely beautifully here. A weekly chart, so there's a little bit of, it's not pit perfect, okay, but it's pretty darn close. We went all the way from there, found the upper parallel, came down to the lower parallel. You had a move from 114.60 down to 102, so whatever, 1,200 pips or so. We moved up, hit the median line near enough, came back down again, and I hope most of my members got in around about this 104 level for a move up to the median line, which is about 112. So there's about 800 or so pips we move to the upside. We have got a potential stepping up of support here. What I mean by that is instead of being down at the lower parallel, we are potentially finding support along the quartile. That is higher support. If we do come down to this sort of level, which is about 108.50, I'm going to be looking at that to see if we do move to the upside. One other thing I'd just point out, you've got a really strong bar here beginning of October. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a line off that, just draw that in there, keep a little watch there. Big strong bar means something is happening. Okay, so we've got a strong bar there. So if price comes back down, comes down to about 109.20 or so, that sort of level, 109.10, 109.20, going to look to see if we find a bit of support there. If the support does indeed step up to this green sliding parallel, then the inference is we're going to go higher, we're going to go up and through this median line once more. Okay, is that all right, Robin? Yeah. But I hope your name is BA, not Bar. Bar? BA. I'm going to call you BA. BA says, can we have a look at Tesla? I posted that into Twitter a while back. Can we have a look? Because it's been moving. Where we got Tesla. There we go. Whoops. No. Tesla, actually, yeah, weekly. It's been running very nicely on the weekly. The daily Tesla is kind of, it's the same fork, but it's kind of a bit messy here. Let me just go and look at it, show you what I'm seeing on the weekly. Again, we've had a really nice run on this. ABC, very simple. You can see lower parallel support there, 182. I think, I mean, with a fork like this, once you get the implication of a lower parallel bounce that is as tight and as good as that, particularly when you move up, hit the median line, and come back a little bit, you pretty well know that this fork is going to take you a very, very long way to the upside. Look, we went from down there at 182, we went all the way to 389. I remember when we hit that line, the first week we hit there, I think I posted something into stock charts. I think I posted it into stock charts, and you know, people just screaming at me, answering, saying, you know, rubbish, crap, you know, it's Tesla, it's going to go to the moon. Yeah, well, maybe it will, but you know, at the moment, it found resistance at the upper parallel. It fell away a little bit, or fell away from that. Where did we fall to? We started trying to pick up support along here, the median line, moved up again. And just one thing I noticed here, let me just point out here, there's a bit of a gap from that line. We didn't need to go to the upper parallel. Can you see that? We found resistance on this bar here beneath the upper parallel. So we've got a lowering of resistance. Instead of the resistance being along here at the upper parallel, it's that little bit lower. Okay, it's that little bit lower. You start seeing lowering resistance, you start putting pressure on support. Lo and behold, median line, we came down to that, got a bit of a bounce to the upside, and then down beneath it. What do we look at now? Well, we look for the next levels. The next levels are going to be, I'm going to draw a line off that low there, see if anything happens off that, and I'm going to watch the median line. The median line is at 318. This line here is at 295. Let's see what happens between that channel. Okay, and you can pretty well guarantee that people that are not looking at Tesla as via a fork, and let me just actually see if I can duplicate the chart, dock it on the stack, just show you what I mean. Dock it on stack, get rid of everything. They're left with that, and they're gonna go right there. That's what they're looking at. Okay. Yeah, it's worked. Brilliant. But what they don't know is why we found resistance up there, why we found resistance there, and what is going to happen if we move underneath this line. They don't have a clue. Okay, so move back, Tesla on a weekly, like that. That is what we're looking. This, to me, gives so much more information than that. Okay, which is why I use this methodology. I like it. You can build as much detail into one of these charts as you want to. I mean, I'm not exactly skating over the top of things, but you know, not looking at everything in perhaps as much detail as I would do in my own trading or my own analysis. Okay, Sal says, I showed gold in currencies. Can you show in euro? Yeah. No problem. Let me do that. And Aussie. Oh, 2 questions for the price of 1. Let me go and do that. These are my currency charts, gold, weekly, and silver. What do you want? Gold and Aussie. Euro, sorry. Gold and euro on the weekly. There you go. Yeah, I mean, sideways as with everything, or as with everything gold-wise. We hit the highs back in 20. Well, in fact, we did it in 2012. Most of the world was 2011, wasn't it? There you go. 2012, we hit the highs, fell to the downside from that. Weekly chart, this run pretty nicely. As you can see, we hit an A, a B, a C, moved up, upper parallel, very, very nicely. That worked really well. Down we came again. I have got to say that I was expecting at this point, let's just get rid of the green, I was expecting price to come down just that little bit more, down to about 10.47. We actually found a low at about 10.58 or so about 11 euros higher than we thought. Only after the point did we actually decide why that was, that there was actually a very, very slight sliding parallel that you could just draw off there, and that picked up our support across there. By the time that we had moved a little bit to the upside, I think we found that by the time we came down again. Where are we at the moment? We are between sliding parallel support, which I'm seeing at 10.77. We're between quartile resistance. If you look at the support along the quartile there and there, we move underneath it. That line now becomes resistance. I'd look at resistance at about 11.28, 11.29. Okay. Oh yeah, Aussie as well. Where's Aussie? Gold in Aussie, again weekly. I like gold in Aussie. Look at that high there, that in 2016. That is the only major currency that I'm aware of that has actually come up and taken out the 2011 highs like that. Just did it very fractionally, moved to the downside. Okay, what do we got in Aussie? There you go. ABC, this is a modified shift, one of the variants that we use. We knew it was running nicely when we started finding all this support down here. We move up to the median line, resistance there. Sliding parallel support, we've got that across there. Okay, what we are currently seeing, and again, this is a weekly chart, is that we're just stepping up a little bit in terms of the support. The green sliding parallel there, we moved up a little bit higher. Against that, I would just counsel that we are also seeing slightly lowered resistance. So instead of hitting the median line on this occasion, we ran to there. Instead of on this occasion moving up to that line, we kind of topped out there. You need to see how price reacts to 1694. Okay, we're at 1670 at the moment, so 24 Aussie to go. 1694, that sort of level. If we push above it, particularly if we move above it and turn that line into support, whereas it was previously resistance, then we're going to be moving higher in terms of gold in the Aussie. If we move to the downside, I'll be watching about 1628 down here, 1626, that sort of level, sliding parallel that we've got across there. Okay, all we're doing is we're saying this is the current channel. Which way are we moving? If we're moving above it, we need to turn this line from resistance into support. If we're moving beneath it, we need to turn this line from support into resistance. So we're looking at channels. Does that make sense? Great. One more, DX60. Yeah, that's the Aussie we were looking at. Let's just see how the DX has been running. DX is dollar index. I'm sure most people know that. Look, again, it's just been running pretty nicely in the fork we've had from the spike low there. Again, ABC, we start finding resistance, lower parallel, a little bit higher here. That tends to tell us that we're going to start moving up. We didn't have to come down to the lower parallel to reload. We pushed to the upside. Up we went through all the resistances, hit a high, came back down. We were, I would just say, cross-checking what we were seeing in terms of the daily chart as well. So, this isn't operating on its own. But currently we've just got a really nice channel at the moment. Sliding parallel, resistance there, turns to a bit of support, a little bit messy. We did have a big spike through it, but just look at where that bar closed, if you can, just above the line. Okay, so yeah, we spiked through, but we came back very, very quickly on it. That's the support. That's the resistance up there. I'm looking about 95.13 or so to the upside. I'm looking at about 94.70 to the downside. Great. Folks, my throat is giving up the ghost a little bit, I'm afraid. I've been going for the best part of an hour, which I hope, as I say, that you found it interesting. If you do have any further questions or queries, what will happen is that I'm going to send out an email just after this with a copy of the recording or a link to the recording of this webinar, so you can go and have a look at it in your own time. Alternatively, you can email me support@Forex-Analytics.com. Again, I'll send out those details in the email. If you feel like going and having a look at the site, please do. As I say, at the moment, we have got a $50 first month membership fee, refundable after the first 2 weeks if you feel it's not for you. Great. Well, thank you very much for bearing with me. Apologies about the state of my throat a little bit, but I can assure you it's more of a concern of mine than it should be of yours. Anyway, thanks very much indeed, and I hope this has been interesting.